Hey guys, it's Dan O'Donnell from PositiveAtmosphere.com here, driving home from a camping trip, and there was a video I wanted to do and I was afraid I was going to forget it, so I just figured I'd do it right now while I'm in the car, and don't worry, I will keep my eyes on the road. I did a video just a couple days ago about the news and how I recommend not watching it or reading it for the most part, and I wanted to follow up on that with an alternative to give you the opposite perspective of the news, which is vastly negative and sensationalistic, if that's a word. But what it is, there's a book it was actually an audio book that I listened to while I was driving around, and it was called The Progress Paradox. I forget the author's name, but the basic idea behind it is most people, it focused a lot on America, but other countries too, people tend to think a lot of things are getting worse that are actually getting better. And some examples are air pollution, healthcare expenses, and things like this. So what it does is it kind of gives you the myth and what most people think, and talks about surveys and studies of what people believe, and then it gives you the facts, which a lot of times are the polar opposite. One great example is air pollution, and it was sometime in the 70s, the two worst cities in the United States were number 1, LA, and number 2, Houston. And I think it was sometime in the 80s, Houston, it was all over the news that all of a sudden Houston surpassed LA as the most polluted air in the country. But what the news didn't tell you was that over the previous 5 or 10 years or whatever it was, both of those cities improved a ton, but LA improved quicker. So they actually went from, the number 1 most polluted air in the country to number 2, but they were both way better than they had been a few years earlier. So the news didn't mention that, they just spun it to make it sound horrible and, to sell more papers or whatever. And they go into other, healthcare costs and quality of healthcare, quality of education, all kinds of things. And it's a great way, if you've got all this stuff in your brain from watching the news or listening to people gripe about how everything's, going to hell in a handbasket, check out The Progress Paradox. It's a great book, and it'll set you straight on a lot of those things and give you a lot of facts. One of them that was interesting, and I might be butchering the numbers here, but I think it was Connecticut in whatever year the book was written, maybe 2005 or something like that, had something like 3 times as much forest as it did in the 1960s, which kind of blew my mind. And the book doesn't just tell you, hey, everything's great, there's no problems in the whole world, but what it does is it opens your eyes up to the slant that news and that most people have, and they want to think that things are worse. They don't want to think, but they tend to think that things are worse than they actually are, and it gives you the reasons why, so that you can keep that in your mind when you hear things and say, that's probably hype, that's probably scare tactics. A great example right now is the swine flu. Okay, maybe it killed twice as many people in 1 week than it did the previous week, but, how many was it? 20 people? Is that really a significant problem? And of course it is for those people who are affected by it, but, it's sensationalism and it's hype, and it's something that'll sell papers based on fear. So, anyway, check out The Progress Paradox. I really highly recommend it, and audiobooks are great. When you're driving around in your car, you can learn things. What else are you going to be doing? Listening to the radio and a bunch of ads. So check it out. That's it. Have a great day. Check out PositiveAtmosphere.com. Dan O'Donnell and Frog the Dog signing off.